Hello everyone and welcome back to Covetous Imp Gaming. Today I was supposed to be doing a video that one of my viewers requested about my favorite dragon, and that video is not quite finished yet. I'm still trying to figure out exactly which one is my overall favorite. But instead, Wizards of the Coast put out a video yesterday talking about the 2024 rules update and specifically the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I figured that was important to talk about. I don't know about you, but there's something about these interviews between Chris Perkins and Todd Kendrick that just gets me ramped up about the future of D&D. Now, yes, they both work for Wizards of the Coast. Of course, they're paid to be amped up about the future of D&D, but they do such a good job of conveying their own personal feelings in all these interviews. I think right off the bat, right out the gate, you have this moment of humility from Chris Perkins where he talks about the failures of the Dungeon Master's Guide, that it was a rushed product, and because they released Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual for 5th edition all at once, that having the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual be perfect and cause the Dungeon Master's Guide to kind of slip through the cracks and not get the attention that it needed. And it kind of starts off with a lot of information up front that somebody who's just starting out maybe isn't ready for. So while there are questions that were left out of the DMG that could have been answered, that could have clarified rules or made gameplay simpler, you're always going to have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people at your table who are their own person and are going to try to push the envelope in their own way. And there's no way you can plan for that. Even the most experienced Dungeon Master isn't always prepared for, well, I don't want to do this. Let's go do this. And getting everybody on their side to go and do it. That's something you just have to be prepared for. And something that you have to be prepared to possibly improv and make up as you go along and still have it fulfill the story and maybe creep back into option A or option B that you had planned for. I know I mentioned it in my last video about D&D Direct lacking any information about 1D&D. The more recent AMA with Wizards did kind of put out that 1D&D has been put to the back burner for now. It seems that it's finally been laid to rest, and this DMG and the accompanying other 2 books are simply just 5e updates. 1D&D, while the playtesting might still be under 1D&D, everything seems to be just 5e going forward with new rules updates. But everything will be backwards compatible. Nothing is going to mess with a previous 5e adventure that you might be in the middle of or anything like that. I was not disappointed with 1D&D, but I looked at it through the eyes of a Forever Dungeon Master, not through the eyes of a player. So while some of those changes wouldn't have affected me, the person who's a player would obviously see a lot of those changes as massive changes, and a lot of them were unexplained changes. And I think that had they done some of these interviews beforehand and talked about like raising the power level of spells, it would make having spells not be able to crit not feel so bad if you knew that your spells were going to do more damage naturally. It would make not having your spells crit not feel as horrible. Not that that's necessarily something that's happening, but just an example that I'm using. But they did go into more detail talking about changes to monsters, changes to spells, and other things besides the Dungeon Master's Guide that would be getting a little bit of a facelift. So some monsters that are a high CR that aren't necessarily that strong and shouldn't be dying in a single round of combat might get a little bit of an update and a bump so that your paladin doesn't, destroy them in one round or, a series of 1 rounds of attacks. Touching more on the monster manual, they did say that a lot of monsters are going to get a facelift, that, rebranding. They're going to stay the same CR, but maybe get brought up to a certain power level that matches that CR. And at the same time, probably get the Monsters of the Multiverse update as well, where, you know, you're going to have some abilities that are going to be uncounterable. They're just going to be an attack. The other thing that they mentioned was that there's information that was in Tasha's and Xanathar's that needs to be streamlined into the DMG. And that idea of, you know, what's a DM screen and what's that for? And the idea of session 0. And I know that I talk about that a lot on here, how important it is to break down that information and have everybody make their characters together, put out the information that you need for your campaign, and make sure that no one's going to be uncomfortable or off-put by something that might take place in your campaign. All that stuff is very important to do before you start your adventure, because this game might not be the right game for you, or you might have an issue that I can fix or write out of the campaign. You know, a minor thing like arachnophobia, anything like that you can take care of in session 0 that causes you to not run into a problem later on, is great and something that DMs should know. But if you don't know to go out and buy Xanathar's or buy Tasha's because you want to be a dungeon master, and your friends just said, hey, let's start playing D&D, and okay, well, we each need this book, but you need this book. You don't know to buy those other 2 books and get all that other information. So it's very good that they're streamlining all that into one new book. It's very reassuring to me to see that they are listening, and that your voice matters. Our voices matter. You know, this could all come out in 2024 and I could hate it or you could hate it. But what do I always say? It's your table. It's your rules. So if you love this rule but hate this rule, play the rules that you want to play. As long as everybody at the table agrees, it's an easy win. That's all I've got for today. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're alerted to our future content. Leave me a comment down below talking about your favorite memory with your DM, or your favorite memory as a DM, or just a video that you'd like to see in the future. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon. Those links are down below, and that dragon video is coming soon. Bye, guys.